All right, welcome to the fourth floor, the pregame show before the
You know, he got him to the launching pad, which we teach the whole year. And at that point, I had to make a play. So it's the playoffs.
It's championship-style defense, man. That's some stuff that we'll look back 10, 15 years from now and watch that play. It was an amazing play.
That seals the game for us. I love how he does any and everything that you ask him to do. I really do.
He just made a big-time save for us. I mean, Tatum did have an angle.
Unbelievable block. Bam is the heart of this team defensively.
But that's a winning play, putting your body on the line. Bam's been our savior on that end so many different times throughout the year.
You get on that big stage, you just got to make big plays, and I made a big play.
Magic Johnson tweeted that he thought Bam's block was the best defensive play he has ever seen in the playoffs.
I would agree with him. I really would. I think that what Bam did to save that game and to make sure that we win it by putting his body on the line, that really is a really great play.
It's one of those things, it doesn't hit you until the game's over. Great block. It was a great win. And, we up 1-0, but we got 3 more to get.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back on Before Floor. That was a video that was put together by Chris Clark, who's been down here a long time doing video production and various other things in that space. So we appreciate him taking the time and doing that. All right, I've got Brady Hawk. I've got Alfredo Arteaga. I've got Greg Sylvander. Alejandro Villegas is producing. Let's get right to it. We put out a couple of podcasts the past couple of days, sort of getting into, especially the one with Michael Pina that we did yesterday, kind of getting into what adjustments can be made in this game as compared to game one. What would, if you were to say one adjustment, Greg, that you expect the Heat to make and one adjustment you expect Brad Stevens and the Celtics to make, what would it be?
The adjustment for the Heat would probably be less Kendrick Nunn minutes, and also sticking with, it's kind of not of an adjustment, it's reinforcing an adjustment from game one, and that's the off-ball switching that they started to do. Jimmy was particularly watching the cross matches and finding ways to ensure that in pick and roll coverage that he found the right guys and didn't get Tatum down low with, Goran on him or something like that. So I would expect that to continue. And for the Celtics, I mean, they need another Marcus Smart appearance the way that they saw him shoot in game one. So I don't really know what adjustments they're going to make other than, that they need to find a way to get Miami to get slowed down on the offensive end.
Brady, did you see anything on the Celtics overall rotation that surprised you? The way that they went with different particular guys, both Williams is playing, obviously no Cantor, which we expected, but Wanamaker played pretty big minutes in that game, actually. I played, I think, 22, 23 minutes, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what they've done. Not the Wanamaker minutes, but they pretty much roll with their starting lineup for 40 minutes, and they always had Marcus Smart off the bench as their guy that he can be that sub guy that can give Hayward a rest or give Tatum a rest or Brown a rest or et cetera. But now it's like it's these guys have to get these major minutes, and now Wanamaker has to be that guy, that relief guy off the bench. I think you look at both Williams, that they kind of got a little bit more minutes, I think, than usual. Because I think they're going to need that with Tice getting in the foul trouble, obviously with Bam, with him attacking and everything else. So they're going to need that, and I don't think that's going to impact the Heat much. I think it might help them, obviously. So I think it's pretty much going to be similar to what they've done all season, other than just kind of being the defensive things they threw out and everything else.
Greg put out there the idea of no Kendrick Nunn. I know that's come in here on the comments, and obviously people are concerned about the way Kendrick's played and kind of at this point wondering why there is still a role. I don't know if it was you, Alfredo, but there were a couple people on our pregame, our pre-series streams who thought Kendrick Nunn would have a big series here. It does not appear that it's going to happen, or I don't even know if he's going to get the opportunity to. What would you do with the rotation? Anything?
I wouldn't change much. If I would change anything as far as like what we're going to do with Kendrick Nunn, he's at this point, he's the heat check player. You play him 10 minutes, he gives you good minutes, he gets more. If not, he goes to the end of the bench. But as far as like adjustments that I would like to see, I'd like to see the Heat run more pick and roll at Daniel Tice, try to get him into foul trouble. And as far as an adjustment the Celtics can make, Maybe go back to 2016 to what Toronto tried to do to Goran Dragic. Try to pick him up, not full court, but at least at half court. Use Marcus Smart on him,
Interesting.
and maybe that can break up the Heat's offensive rhythm and give them let the runs breathe a little bit more for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, actually. And if you look also at Dragic, in that series, that one thing that has not happened here in the postseason, nobody's been physical with him. I remember that, if you go back to that playoff series, the 16 playoffs, teams were physical with him. Goran was on the floor a lot. I don't think Boston is that kind of physical team. And so far right now, we've seen it in pretty much all three series. When Goran wants to get to the paint, Goran gets to the paint. Nobody stops him from getting in the paint. And, you're talking about a guy who at point guard, I'll throw this out to you, and then we'll get to more of the comments. I can only think of 3 point guards who've played better in the playoffs this year than Goran. And that's if you include Jamal Murray as a point guard, which I do, Chris Paul, and Dame Lillard.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Am I missing someone? I mean, Kyle Lowry to me is a push because he was efficient, but he was obviously the heartbeat of that team.
That was the one guy I thought about, but he had hot and cold moments, whereas Goran has been really consistent. So I think you're probably on track there, which I mean, that's putting Marcus Smart on him and kind of roughing him up a little bit. The difference between now and then is that between 2016 and now is that Goran seems to get foul calls where before he was ignored by the refs. So maybe that's why teams have been a little less reliant on bullying him.
I think the only other guy is Luka, but I don't know if you count him as a point guard or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one. I mean, LeBron's technically
he's positionless. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
LeBron's technically. I mean, but if you go look at some of the guys he's outplayed, he's outplayed Westbrook. He's outplayed Bledsoe. There's some legitimate players that he's outplayed. I mean, I know we didn't expect a lot from Shake Milton, or maybe even Markelle Fultz, but again, look around the league.
Brogdon.
Yeah, exactly. He outplayed Brogdon. You're right, and he outplayed Pat Beverly when Pat Beverly was playing. I mean, so to me, Goran is as much as we talk about Bam, Jimmy. We'll talk about them in a second. The way Goran has been so consistent throughout the playoff run. He's gone over 20, 8 out of 10, which is remarkable. He only went back-to-back 20-point games once this season. He's now done it 8 out of 10 times. All right, let's get to Bam. I feel like that game, there was parts of it that were, again, the Bam experience can be frustrating because you expect more, but then he made the play at the end that sort of erased everything. But having Michael Pina on, a big topic of conversation with all of us was Bam's, willingness to shoot that jumper, but also his willingness to put the ball on the floor against Tice. If you could take one or the other, I'll shoot the jumper tonight, or I will take the big to the basket, try to pick him up in foul trouble, Alfredo. What would be your preference?
Oh, take him to the basket and play him in pick and roll. He's a great pick and roll player offensively. Play him with Dragic. Yeah. For years, we were waiting for Goran Dragic and Hassan Whiteside to develop a pick and roll game. It never came. We have one now with Bam Adebayo. I'd say run it often at Daniel Tice. And when everything bogs down, sometimes you get relief offense by just going ISO with Jimmy Butler or just giving it to Goran with 8 seconds left on the shot clock. Maybe find Bam on the wing and try to isolate him against Daniel Tice. I would make Daniel Tice the focal point of our attack tonight because you saw what happened last time when he went to the bench when he fouled out. They essentially just stood around and took turns in ISO ball for the rest of the game. He'd win the game. So this time, try to get him into foul trouble a little bit earlier.
Yeah, there's some love for you here on the comment section. You all of a sudden you're the president of Cocky Heat Twitter above Ray or Alf. Not the other Alf. I don't know about that. All right, let's get to another conversation we had with Michael Pina, which is both teams seem content to allow one guy in the starting lineup to shoot it. Boston wants Crowder to shoot it. Miami wants Smart to shoot it. They both shot it a lot. They both made a healthy percentage of them. Should either team change that strategy? If you're Boston, do you start playing Crowder in a way that maybe other teams have not played him? And if you're Miami, do you start paying attention to Marcus Smart as an offensive player, Greg?
Miami should not adjust. Marcus Smart is the guy that you want to take high volume attempts, and you live with the results. He's been awesome. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's had those games, but he also can put up a stinker now and again. With Jay Crowder, in my opinion, it's a little bit more of a pick your poison situation, because we've seen throughout these playoffs that Jay Crowder and Goran Dragic have been the two players that have gotten, and it sounds weird to say it about Goran, the least attention, while Duncan Robinson is getting completely focused on. So I think that if Boston decides to shift away from Crowder, it may just end up being a Duncan game. Whereas I don't know that same long ball threat exists for Boston, other than Smart making these shots when we don't necessarily always see him do that.
What do you think, Brady?
Yeah, I think you have to leave Smart open for Boston, because he's not the most consistent guy. He had his game the other day in game 1, and I don't think that's going to continue much. If it happens, I think you live with that. And with the Boston side of things, I think you have to leave Crowder open. That's just kind of what you have to do. Obviously, looking at it from the Heat side, Spoelstra wants Crowder to continue to shoot them even when they're just contested. So I think there's a lot of different things, but I think even if they leave Crowder open today, I think it's going to be a good Duncan game, because most of it, like I said the other day on the podcast, I think most of his shots were open, at least open for Duncan, because I think that's two different things. But I think if you look at just that, I think he's going to knock down a couple of them today and have a really good game.
We've got one of the comments, Alf greater than Alf. I don't know which Alf is the one who's greater than the other.
Alfredo's greater because he's the president now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Fredo's. Yeah, that's right. Just let Alphonse know that here later tonight.
Although I recognize that guy, and that guy called me a poor man, Alf954, on the postgame show the other day. So.
Well, Alf954 is a poor man's Alf954, actually. So I don't know that that's the worst thing. I want to get to a bigger picture topic here, and then we'll get to the picks to close this. But I noticed a narrative emerging. I tweeted about this yesterday. There's a narrative emerging because the Clippers got bounced, right? And because no one in ESPN knew who Bam Adebayo was until February or March. There is a narrative that's emerging that basically maybe this isn't the most legitimate championship. And it kind of feels to me like the only way that some of these clowns are going to think this is a legitimate championship, and it is a legitimate championship, by the way. It's the ultimate test of, I'll do it, Greg, culture, okay? But to me, the thing that's just it's crazy is that, you know, when you take a look at the narrative, it's basically if LeBron wins, it's real. Okay? If LeBron doesn't win, if Denver wins, if Miami wins, it's this thing doesn't count, right? It doesn't count. It wasn't real circumstances. The bubble hadn't happened. Do we even pay attention to this?
I mean, we do, because we want to have fun when we call them out for hot takes, cold takes. But, you know, it really is just showing how many national media members don't watch a lot of basketball, and they literally are just watching highlights and maybe some nationally televised games. It's difficult to listen to, but I don't know that it's going to change. And it's weird because, like, I'll give you an example. Ramona Shelburne a while back, and this is not who created this particular narrative you're referencing, Ethan. She talked about her MVP voting and how she's a narrative-based voter. You would think that this Heat story is the ultimate narrative-based thing to lean into, but ultimately the LeBron factor is the LeBron factor. The Clippers were the, you know, perennial kind of favorites all throughout the year. So it's bizarre that they're not embracing this a little bit more, because they are kind of the lovable underdog, which is not who the Heat have been ever before.
but for it to be embraced, Greg, they have to know who's actually on the team. I kind of feel
Good
with
point.
some people, it's not, and I think a big part of the LA thing is the backstory here is that ESPN basically moved everybody to Los Angeles like 5 or 6 years ago, and then LeBron showed up after that, and then Clutch got its tentacles into ESPN even more, and so there's just this thing. It's either LeBron or the foil to LeBron, which is the Clippers, and they both happen to be in Los Angeles, and so that's kind of where it's gone. But you're right. This should be a great story. But I'll throw this out there, Alfredo. Would you prefer? Because I know you bug up your ass about this whole thing. Would you prefer that they just don't talk about the Heat, they continue doing what they're doing, or prefer that they all jump on the bandwagon now?
Well, it's like 50-50, right? It's either one or the other. Yesterday, I kept staring at my screen like, what is this woman talking about? Sarah Spain was saying, considering all the wacky stuff that's happened in the bubble, is this really legitimate? So I started thinking, my God, man, it really has been wacky, right? And then I thought again, and said, what's been wacky about these playoffs? Everybody and their mother thought that this was a bad matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round.
Right.
The Heat beat them. Okay, they just proved their point. So where's the other wackiness? One upset the rest of the playoffs? One. There's been one real upset the rest of the playoffs.
But also to that end, Alfredo, even that upset, I mean, this is the third time Doc Rivers has blown a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, it's not a
And
surprise.
Paul George.
Right?
Paul
And
George
eight times he loses a game 7.
Right.
So then, okay, so where's the other upset? Oh my God, a 3 beat a 2 in the second round. Like, okay, the day that the 3s can't beat 2s in the second round of the NBA playoffs is the time they have to get rid of the first round of the NBA playoffs.
Well, actually,
Right.
to your point, and I'm glad you're giving us this material because I might write about this. To your point, the playoffs have actually played out more like they should have than they usually do. In other words,
Yes.
in the Eastern Conference in the first round, what was it, 16-1?
Yeah.
The four series with the higher. I mean, Miami wasn't the higher seed, but it was whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
It was a wash. But right, Miami beat Indiana 4-1. No, 4-0. 4-0. Right. Boston won
4-0.
4-0. Who is it?
Toronto was also 4-0.
4-0. So
Milwaukee lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 6. Okay, so 16-2, right? So 6 over the whole
16-1.
16-1. So I don't understand how. I mean, again, the Clippers story, and we had Michael Pina really breaks it down on our episodes this morning. What went wrong there? There just was never any connection between these players before they got in, and I just think that if you didn't have a connection before you were going to get in, you certainly weren't going to have it once you got there. And it was just going to highlight whatever your differences were once you got in there, and I think that showed with the Clippers. All right, let's get back to it. Picks for tonight. Well, first, this comment: could Derrick Jones Jr. have an impact tonight? Let's address that first. Do you think so? Is he the night?
I think he should get the minutes over Nunn. It kind of matters where Spo's at with his confidence in Nunn. He tries to kind of give young guys like that a little bit of confidence from his coach. So, but I think ultimately he's going to go with Derrick Jones. Obviously, on the top of the zone, he's just really very good with that. And I think, like I said before, I think we were kind of saying that he was going to be a hard person to be a spacer on the offensive side, and it seems like Kendrick Nunn's a worse spacer on the offensive side. So if you're going to get the defense from Derrick Jones Jr., it just seems pretty obvious that he's going to roll with that today.
Yeah, some of these comments are coming in. I guess NBA Countdown devoted the whole show to the Clippers. I noticed that yesterday. First take yesterday.
You're right.
They tried to talk about it, and Stephen A. I don't care about that series. I went back to the Clippers. All right, let's make picks for tonight. Who do you like, Alfredo?
Okay, if the Heat come out like they came out in the first game, sleepwalking, this could get ugly. But something subtle happened in that first game, which bodes really well for the Heat, and that's that Marcus Smart almost flopped his way to a victory. That flop at the end of the game has gotten a lot of run. I'm pretty certain that the Heat has sent video to the league about it. Maybe they keep the Celtics on a closer leash. They get some foul calls. Heat win a close one before it becomes a series in the next 2 games. So Heat win tonight.
What do you think? What do you think, Brady?
Yeah, I think Miami's going to win. I think it's going to be close throughout, and I think they're going to pull away in the fourth quarter behind Jimmy Butler late in the fourth quarter once again. And I think it's going to be a good Duncan Robinson game. I think he'll have 6 threes. And, yeah, I think they win, I'll say 8.
Oh, Greg.
So Boston, in the Boston-Toronto series, the road team in the bubble won every single game of that 7-game series. Boston hasn't won a home game in a really long time. So you would think this sets up to be the Boston night, but I'm going in the other direction because I said Heat in 5 to start this thing. Everybody scoffed at me and looked at me funny. But I ultimately think that the Heat they captured something at the end of that game. They were down 14 and they gritted it out. And that's like the turn the corner moment. So I'm feeling good about tonight. Heat win, and I'm not going with a score. Heat in 5.
Heat in 5. Alejandro.
It's gonna be Miami Heat by 5 points.
Look at that.
Heat in 5.
Definitive. That's definitive. I actually kind of like Boston tonight. I understand what
boo this guy.
I understand where Greg.
It's reasonable.
That they a lot of things we talked about on 5 on the floor. That a lot of things I think that Miami would take in that game, the way that Boston played, and again, you look at Tatum being somewhat efficient, but Kemba Walker was extremely inefficient. Jaylen Brown really wasn't impactful. Fire Ethan. I should fire myself. And so I do think we're due for a Kemba game. Some of the things that we talked about on the podcast about how Kemba can get to that step back a little bit more often. He was very indecisive and ended up chucking threes. I think you'll have a better game from him. And I also think that Miami's due for one of those big turnover games. And I'm a little bit concerned that once they get a 1-0 lead in the series, I feel like they play better from behind sometimes than they do in that position. And they may get a little sloppy early and may be hard to come back from. So this one comes in Heat 108, refs 107. Well, at least they would have beaten him. All right, we'll be back later today. And the other thing is I picked the Heat in 7, so Boston has to win some games. So maybe it'll be maybe it'll be game 2. All right, we'll be back afterwards. Alf will be hosting Biscayne Bay Brew. Pick up a few of those if you can for this series, okay? Alf, has a few at his house, but make sure the other Alf.
Yeah.
The better Alf, the worse Alf. I'm not sure which Alf. Have a good night.
All right. So you guys don't leave. I'm going to show you what the Eric Spoelstra said earlier today. Ethan and Alfredo, you guys can leave. I'll show people here what Eric Spoelstra and Tyler Hero had to say before of the game in today's press conference. We're going to go ahead and share those with you tonight. But before, we're going to read some of your messages that couldn't make it to the end of the broadcast. So, Ryan, thank you for your messages. Mr. Me, thank you. Music, Danny, Adrian Gray, who thinks is going to be 107.99. Samir, who's always in this type of broadcast with us. So thank you for being here. He was watching Paul Pierce. I got him, and then he was watching some golf, I think, on ESPN. I don't know. If the Heat win the chip, all the credit will go to Braun. Well, we'll see. Stanley Ho, Heat in 5. Come on, guys. Gentlemen sweep because we classy. Okay, we'll see what happens. So, and the last one, I forgot. The last game was a 5 versus 8 game. Yes, the refs were definitely not on Miami's side. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to play what the guy said. Let's go with Duncan Robinson. That's going to be our first one coming up here. And let's say what he said earlier today.
He's always in my ear, which I'm incredibly appreciative of, and he's always seen something offensively, defensively. Really since day one, he's really been in my corner, and I've felt that, and I'm incredibly appreciative. And sometimes it feels relentless, but I know it's just coming from a place of wanting me to be the best of my abilities. Which I'm appreciative of. This whole organization, everybody's just been in my corner, as you hear, Solo screaming from down the hall, telling me to shoot it. So I'm just thankful and appreciative of the opportunity and just trying to make the most of it. Shoot it, Tim Reynolds. Okay, do guys ever ask you to shoot the ball? Occasionally, every now and then. I know you're still a very young man, but the play Bam made in that moment, given what's at stake at that point in a game, is there anything at any level that you've seen that you've been part of that would compare to that moment? Just like from play type wise, the one that jumps to mind is the Thiago Splitter LeBron. But just the stage and the point in the game, there's no comparison in that regard. I mean, that's an incredible play. You almost have to I had to watch it again and again to almost just capture how special of a play it was. But he's done that all year in different ways. Maybe not to that grandiose scale of as time basically expiring, saving a possession like that. But He's done it for us game in, game out, every night. And, one thing you can count on Bam is he's going to show up. I mean, he plays in every single game. He plays 38-plus minutes every single game. And he just brings it every single game. So it doesn't surprise us when he does stuff like that, because it's almost like, as crazy as it sounds, is what you come to expect. But still, when you watch that play again, it's just like freakish. It's incredible. Did you hear after he did it? No, what he said. Yeah.
Jared Weiss from The Athletic.
Coach was just talking about the importance of persistence in your offensive flow against this defense. How do you feel that that's going to play a role for you guys as Boston kind of gets more adjusted to how complicated your offense is?
As the series goes on, and what was learned from the other series, teams are going to adjust and find ways to take things away. So game one is such a small sample size, and I'm sure they're a really well-coached team and disciplined team, so they'll come back with adjustments. And for us, it's really going to be about executing with detail and not letting them just flatten us out when we get into whatever it is, catch and shoots, ball screen action, drives, all that sort of stuff. So for us, it really just comes down to execution and really being locked in on that stuff.
David from Gazzetta dello Sport.
Hey, Duncan. When do you think you earn Coach Spoelstra's trust, and what is he doing for you, for your growth?
It's been huge. I alluded to it earlier, but really ever since I've been in the organization, he's been on me about being aggressive and encouraging me to shoot the ball and play to my strengths. So it's been an unwavering confidence that's existed really since I've been here, and now I guess it's gaining a little bit more notoriety just because of the stage. But he's been incredibly consistent, and I'm appreciative of that. And it's really allowed me to just play freely, play without that clutter in your mind, and just kind of do my job.
Christos Saltas, SDNA Greece.
Hello, Duncan. Celtics will try to respond after the game one. So how is the preparation about your mental preparation about game two in the locker room? And also, you play a very aggressive defense on Kemba Walker. It will gonna be the key for game two also.
I'll start with the second question. Obviously he's a really dynamic player, and we just try to make it as tough on him as possible. Throw different things, always kind of keep him guessing. So there's going to be more of that moving forward. Just to kind of throw different stuff at him, and he'll make adjustments, and it'll be on us to make adjustments as well. And then to your first question, game-to-game adjustments are huge. A lot of it is kind of chess pieces and how you move them around, and you learn a lot from game one. But really, the steps moving forward, games 2, 3, 4, those will be where a lot of those adjustments really take place. You just continue to try to play to your strength, take away what they're trying to do, and make adjustments to their adjustments as well.
Duncan, thank you for your time today, sir.
Thanks.
Thanks, Duncan.
All right, that was Duncan Robinson right before the game. Well, no, that was earlier today. We're going to continue to watch Eric Spoelstra now with the press conference before the game. We're going to leave Tyler Hero for the last one, because we already have him here in the YouTube channel. So you guys probably saw him today earlier. So what we're going to do, we're going to go now with Eric Spoelstra. He's going to be the next one. Let's stop sharing this one, and let's go with Eric Spoelstra now. Give me a second, and we'll show you right now what Eric Spoelstra had to say earlier about this game and this series against the Boston Celtics.
Thanks. Mr. Mark.
You are 9-1 in the playoffs.
Keep the task at hand. I mean, obviously, this is a super competitive series. We're down 12, and it was for a reason. I mentioned that after the game. They were playing extremely well, getting us out of what we typically do, and it's high-level competition, and you can expect a big-time response from them. We need to play better. We need to do some things, certainly, better on both sides of the court. And that's what today was about. It was just trying to get better.
The fact that
your team can go through something like the finish of last night. The fact that Bam can make that play in that moment, and then he gets done and does media and says it was one game, we move on. Does that show you that this mentally they're where you need them?
Well, as a competitor, his competitive maturity belies his age, and that's what we've always loved about Bam. It's about winning, and that's all he thinks about is how to impact winning in all the ways that a staff and organization would see it. It's not about the final box score or the final column on the box score scoring. It's whatever's needed. And he had a couple of big time plays, not just that one, but defensively going down the stretch, really switching out, but also protecting the rim. All of these things, contribute to winning, and he has that maturity to understand it is only one game. 7-game series are hard, and we have great respect of who we're playing against.
Ira Winderman.
Mark, you've spoken to us all year about how teams now are game planning for Duncan. It's changed. There has to be adjustments. Did you see something in game one they necessarily did to him? Was it more a product of the foul trouble? And how much have you had to change things up for Duncan because he is on the other team's game plan and scatter report now?
Yeah, we changed quite a bit. But again, if we were trying to cram for the test and do that in the last 3 days, you wouldn't have the necessary habits. He just has to continue to run his routes with purpose and incredible persistence. I think he could have been a lot more persistent last night, but he typically finds ways to have a better impact as the series goes on.
And how did you feel his defensive play was against their very good and high scoring wings yesterday? Thank you.
No, I thought it was fine. I mean, obviously it was his third foul. He reached. Said he had his hands up, but he reached. That was a foul. I mean, it just hit a three. I wanted to do. Be 100 times making him do it with his hands up with technique right now as we speak.
Rebecca Harlow.
Coach, you have such an eclectic group, but from the outside looking in, you guys all really just seem to enjoy each other. How much are you just enjoying the process with this specific team?
Yeah, I want to make sure that we all stay as present as possible. This is such an extraordinary time and opportunity. We do have a lot of different personalities with this group, but we share the same values about competition. Guys are very serious about their approach to competition and competing. But then you get outside the 4 lines, and it is a fun group to be around.
Jason Jackson.
Spo used the term over the years about guys who don't get sick at sea, and obviously this group has shown time and again before the shutdown and obviously seeding games, the playoffs, that those elements are there with all your guys. What is it, though, specifically that we can understand about that mindset and ability that helps you deal with momentum swings, both good and bad, in these games?
I have a lot of veteran guys that have been in playoff series before. That you start with that. You need guys that have been playoff tested and have that experience. Jimmy, Goran, Jay, Andre. They've been through so many tough playoff series before, and have felt disappointment, have felt elation. They know how hard it is in the playoffs. You have that kind of stability and leadership that trickles down to our young players who we rely on. It allows them to be themselves. It allows them to play without knowing what they don't know.
Anthony Chang.
Hey, so I know every series is different, every game is different, but the fourth quarter numbers in the playoffs have been off the charts in a positive way for you guys. How pleased have you been with the late game execution, and have you sensed a common thread between these games?
Not necessarily. Some of the games have been close. Some of the games we've been up. And the other team came back. I would like to see us be able to
to compete heading into the fourth, where we're not in a double-digit deficit. For sure.
Jared Weiss from The Athletic.
Coach, your offense is so unique to most of the offenses around the league, and it's a real adjustment for defenses when they first face you. So as they get more used to how they have to defend you, how does your team have to kind of adjust or improve the way you approach it?
We'll just have to see, that we're facing a really good defense by a lot of different metrics that you can point to. They're the best defensive team in the league. And you have to do things with great detail and purpose. I say it time and time again. You have to do things with force and speed and pace. If you don't, and you're just mindlessly running around out there without spacing, without those level of details, they will flatten you out, and they'll do it to make you feel some pain. You're getting into some tough shots. So we understand their defense is really good. And we'll see what layers that we'll have to get into as we can for sure anticipate.
Christos Saltas from SDNA Greece.
Hello, Coach. Jay Crowder talked after the game one that your team must play better on game two. What is the element that you would like to emphasize about game two?
Well, they were kicking our ass. I mean, that's a pretty good place to start. They're getting our asses kicked going into the fourth quarter. That didn't feel too good.
And last question, David from La Gazzetta dello Sport, Italy.
Hey, Coach, I'm pretty sure you watched the game last night. What do you think made the difference for you guys, and which is the thing you're most proud of the way you play?
Well, even though they were kicking our ass, we were able to mentally stay with it and just stay the course. We did play some better basketball with more force and detail in the fourth quarter, and at that point, it can become make or miss, or foul or not foul, or whatever. And unfortunately, we were able to make enough plays, down the stretch. And we got an incredible block, and Jimmy made some really willful plays.
Thanks for your time today, Spo. Appreciate it.
So,
okay, that was Eric Spoelstra today, talking about tonight's game, the second game of the Eastern Conference Finals. We have one more before we leave you guys with the actual game that starts at 7 p.m. We have the same starting lineup as usual, the one that we're used to by now. Dragic, Robinson, Butler, Crowder, and Bam Adebayo. They're going to be wearing white. That's not the uniform that they'll be wearing tonight. So let's do Tyler Hero before we leave, and we leave you ready to watch the second game, of the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's have this ready over here. Give me a second, and we'll go with Tyler Hero now next on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel.
Tyler, last night Duncan had one of those games where he's trying to get in a rhythm and then he gets into foul trouble. And I'm just curious if you can talk to us as a shooter and scorer. What's it like when foul trouble takes you out of your rhythm? And does it become a point where it just naturally becomes frustrating?
I think for shooters, it's more just having to be on the floor in a long period of time and be able to catch a rhythm. I don't think it was obviously not too frustrating for Duncan, but I think just being on the floor, the more he's on the floor, he can obviously get more shots up, and then it's easier to catch a rhythm when you're out there for a longer period of time. So, we want him to continue to shoot the ball with confidence, and we expect him to continue to do that.
And then I haven't had a chance to ask you this since it all came out, and I'm sure you've seen it everywhere, but your thoughts on John Calipari saying you have a very large pair of whatever, shall we say. What was your reaction to that when you saw it constantly everywhere?
It was funny. Coach Cal didn't lie when he said he tells me that all the time. I mean, he's been telling me that since I was at Kentucky, but it was just something that he says to me a lot.
Becca Harlow.
Yeah, just what is it about this team, the chemistry of this team, that you think is so special? Spo was just talking about how much he enjoys this group in particular.
I think just, we all come from a different place. We all we all realize that, and we all have a will to win, and just we don't care who scores the ball, who does what on the floor. We all just want to win, and we have a great group of guys in the locker room that are all for each other. We came here to the bubble as a group, and we wanted to make a run at a championship, and that's what we're doing.
And Pregame, you talked openly about how you feel like there were people who doubted you along the way throughout various points of your career. How much are you just sort of built for these moments, playoffs in particular? How much do you find that you're just enjoying this process?
Yeah, I love it. I think I'm not the only guy on the team who's been doubted. There's a lot of undrafted guys who've been in the second round, and I think that's why we have a chip on our shoulder as a team. We all feel like we've been doubted at some point throughout our career, and now we're all here together in one locker room and feel like we can put it together and win games.
Jason Jackson.
Tyler, a couple questions for you. First, your reaction to making All-Rookie second team.
It was good. I'm excited or happy for myself and the rest of the guys who made it. Felt like I could have been on the first team, but I'm happy with what I got.
And then secondly for you, Coach likes to say a lot, I'm sure you've heard him say it, he probably said it to you, that it's this group of young players doesn't know what they don't know. But what have you learned about what it takes to deal with these high-pressure momentum swings that you all as a group, you've had to endure a lot during these playoffs, but you responded extremely well, obviously.
Yeah, I think just every possession matters. As a rookie, I think that's the one thing I've learned throughout the playoffs is, every possession matters. Everything matters, whether it's in the first quarter, that can play a vital role in what's going on in the fourth quarter. So, just really taking the value of each possession and really taking care of the ball, making the right plays, taking the right shots, and just being focused on the other end on defense.
Jared Weiss from The Athletic.
Coach was just talking about persistence and how important continuing to cut, continuing to move is against this defense. How do you feel like that, the way that you guys use the shot clock to its fullest extent on seemingly every possession, and you keep splitting, keep back cutting, how does that give you a big advantage in this series?
They do a lot of switching, and they can flatten us out on that end of the floor where if we're not detailed and not doing things with precision, that's where they can flatten us out. They can get us late in the shot clock, and we'll end up taking shots that we don't want to take. So just, like I said, doing things with detail, getting the ball where we want it, and that's how we get the best shots and we're working our advantage.
David from La Gazzetta dello Sport, Italy.
Hey, Tyler, the confidence you've been playing, where does that come from?
Just hours in the gym. My coaching staff and the rest of my teammates just, feed life into me, feed confidence into me. And they trust me and they want me to do what I've been doing.
AJ Speaks.
Hey, Tyler, how did your film study, or what did you see in film study that helped prepare you for a game like yesterday? And secondly, did you notice, or was there any point where you noticed that you were close to a triple-double?
I did not know I was close to a triple-double throughout the game, but the film, we just watched a lot of film leading up to this series, and then obviously knowing what they do and what their tendencies are, what their objectives are, what they want to do. They want to play to their strengths, and that's what we want to do. So that's going to be a dogfight the whole series, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Christos Saltas, SDNA Greece.
Tyler, two questions for you. First of all, how special is this season for you personally? And because you are a rookie and you fight for the NBA finals, and also some of your teammates told a lot of times that this team is special. Which is the point that made this team so special?
For me, as a rookie, it's just a blessing to be here. I never thought I'd be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals with a chance to go to the finals. So I'm just taking every part of it with me and enjoying it, taking advantage of my opportunity. And, what was your second question? Sorry.
It was about the team, because some of your teammates told that this team is special. this season. Which is the point that made this team so special?
We just got a great locker room, a lot of guys who want to win, and our grit. There's been a couple times in these playoffs where we've been down double digits going into the fourth quarter, and we restore back and make play after play on both ends of the floor, and we win. So this championship DNA is in our locker room.
Tyler, that's it for today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was Tyler Hero earlier today before the game. The game's about to start. I'm watching ESPN right now. The game hasn't started yet, but it's about to start. So thank you guys for being with us today for our pregame. We're not going to be doing the live tweeting party, but I did call the comeback last time. Like our friend said, who was it who said it? GT Knight. Yes, I called the comeback because I felt like something was going on, and the Miami Heat was going to come back in that fourth quarter. We're going to be doing it again on Saturday. On Saturday, I promise you guys that we'll be doing a live tweeting party like we did last time. That was fun, and we'll do it again. But tonight I have to be doing several things at the same time, and I'm not going to be able to do that tonight. So we have images already from the bubble. The Celtics are getting ready. The Miami Heat's getting ready. We're going to say goodbye with the same video we started today, with the video that Chris Clark made for us earlier, and it was awesome about Bam Adebayo's great defensive play. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you all of you that stay with us until the very, very, very beginning of the game. They're warming up. They're getting ready. And we're gonna leave you so you can grab some water, beer, whatever you're gonna drink tonight, and be ready for the second game of the Eastern Conference Finals. You can follow me at Alejandro, like Ethan said, Alejandro VG32 on Twitter and Instagram. And thank you very much for being here with us. We're gonna end up with this video made or edited by Chris Clark, and it's gonna remind you of what happened in Game 1. See you.
He got him to the launching pad, which we teach the whole year. And at that point, I had to make a play. So it's the playoffs.
It's championship style defense, man. That's some stuff that
we'll look back
15 years from now and watch that play. It was an amazing play. That seals the game for us. I love how he does any and everything that you ask him to do. I really do.
He just made a big time save for us. I mean, Tatum did have an angle.
Unbelievable block. Bam is the heart of this team defensively.
But that's a winning play, putting your body on the line. Bam's been our savior on that end so many different times throughout the year.
You get on that big stage, you just got to make big plays, and I made a big play.
Magic Johnson tweeted that he thought Bam's block was the best defensive play he has ever seen in the playoffs.
I would agree with him. I really would. I think that what Bam did to save that game and to make sure that we win it by putting his body on the line, that really is a really great play.
It's one of those things, it doesn't hit you until the game's over. Great block. It was a great win. We up 1-0, but we got 3 more to get.